I didn't want to believe it, but basically the essence is that there are so many techniques and modalities out there like breathwork, meditation, psychedelics, all kinds of therapies, and they all have their place. And what happens with breathwork is that it usually only helps temporarily. In the emergency situation I was in, right, with the breakup, it was exactly what was helpful to me right now in that moment, because I didn't had any more effective tools or more liberating and permanently freeing tools. And I made a video back then, right after I had that breathwork session, where I documented the peace of that being and how much I loved it and appreciated it. But I also realized how much work it was to do a 1 hour breathwork session. And what my guides were pointing me towards is, hey, that's not necessary. It's possible to get to that same place without all of that action, basically to force yourself into non-resistant being. And the inner peace that I felt after that emotional release during that 9-dimensional breathwork session from the Breath Masters is now slowly coming to be as easily accessible as taking a small step to the side into the light. We simply relax as much as we can during whatever we do, and we don't push to change anything. We don't direct our focus into changing anything, but we direct our focus into awareness and become as aware as possible by simply noticing all that is happening in our experience. And that instruction sounds so simple, and it's not accessible at the beginning for many people. I don't know why, but I will find out, because I want to help people recognize it, because it's been so profoundly helpful for myself. My guess is that basically releasing trauma with therapy, breathwork and whatnot is what helps us relax, at least temporarily or to a sufficient degree, until we are relaxed enough to simply recognize what is happening. And that is true unconditional inner peace, where the things that happen no longer force us to do something or change something in the external or change something in the internal, but we can simply allow them to be as they are. To let happen what happens without relating it to us and without getting entangled in it. And this entanglement happens because we resist it or because we crave it. And craving and resistance basically drop away and disappear on their own when we make that simple step, allowing things to simply be held in our awareness, by simply allowing ourselves to experience the things without trying to change them in any way whatsoever, and simply being with them. And initially there will be a tension, initially there will be an entanglement, but at some point what will happen is that basically the cord that is keeping us entangled with the thing is gonna snap when we fully allow ourselves to be with it without changing it in any way, allowing it to do what it may. At some point that cord is gonna snap, and suddenly the suffering is no longer problematic. The issue, the pain, the uncomfortable thing is no longer relating to us, but it's happening on its own, and there's a space in between that is freeing and that allows us to be free of that, and it's no longer a problem, and it can be as it is. And then either that's it and there's no problem and the pain is still there, but it is no problem for us, or it will actually transform and disappear as well. And the situation solves itself, or the pain disappears in our sitting. So all that to say is that becomes more and more easily accessible. And that is very informative and helpful to understand, because then we don't get attached to modalities like meditation, breathwork, or psychedelics, or whatever it may be, because all these things are beautiful and we can still use them to integrate and work with conditioning. But as Jan Essmann said, that is a game, and there's no problem with playing games like therapy or improving something, helping ourselves or the world, as long as we recognize, and this is the key word, as long as we recognize and remain a witness to us playing that game. So we don't identify with, oh, I need to heal, or oh, this needs to change in the world, or oh, this is an actual problem. Because then we are in entanglement. Then there's an I and the world, and it's entangled with each other. But when we can simply recognize everything as it is, recognize the I in our awareness entirely and the pain, then entanglement gets released, and these things basically happen on their own, and disidentification happens on its own. Disidentification is a simple result of recognition, full recognition. Another way to put it is, right now, if you feel an uncomfortable feeling in you and you feel that something is resisting that in you, you could say that if you introspect and feel, what is that resistance, or what is that uncomfortable feeling? Sadness, frustration, anger, fear, stress, whatever it may be. Okay, and where do I feel it? In my stomach, in my head, in my legs? And the way we can put it is that as soon as you actually fully see all of the sensations that make up the resistance in you, the moment you see all of the sensations, which might be in the stomach, in the head, around an I thought, there might be tension, like I don't want this, or I want this. As soon as we recognize all of the sensations in our experience that are very much hiding in the shadows of our subconscious mind, but as soon as we can expand our awareness and our consciousness to include all of the sensations that might even be behind us, wherever they are, as soon as we recognize all sensations, that is the very moment these sensations turn from, oh, me and I don't like this and I'm entangled with this, to simply, it's happening on its own. Because as soon as we recognize all of it, our awareness is greater than the thing, and we've become greater, and therefore can see clearly that there's a space between us as the awareness and the sensations of resistance and stories of I want this, I don't want that. I like this, I don't like that, etc., etc. And the greater our consciousness becomes, the greater our awareness, the more it expands, the greater the space becomes, and the more inner peace there's felt. And the more we can simply be and let things be and play out. And the funny thing is, which the ego really doesn't want us to believe, is that makes us suddenly become conscious of how everything is divinely orchestrated and playing out perfectly. Like there's nothing we could insert with our ego, mind, will that would make it better. And that actually by stepping out of the way, the flow of life can flow in its perfection in ways that we could have never calculated. Synchronicities will show up, and serendipities, and things will align in ways that we could have never planned, predicted, or schemed and strategized of our own accord. And that is when true surrender turns into our superpower. And do you know why this whole shebang is so subtle? It's not because God is trying to make it extra hard for us to recognize awareness and live a graceful life. It is exactly because subtlety is the greatest grace and most beautiful way to guide us there is. Because imagine we would get everything we wanted in life by pushing and resisting and craving, what unfortunate situation would that be? We would be internally suffering and getting outside what we want and then still be somehow dissatisfied. Or even if we were happy, it would still not be such a nice reality as the truth, which is that everything effortlessly aligns when we trust and simply rest in being and align our life with the highest light and truth, our intuitive knowing that we already have. It is the greatest gift that we could possibly receive, that God is not giving us what we want until we surrender to life and the flow of life. So it's a different perspective. At the beginning, and sometimes I was so triggered, like, oh, why isn't intuition so obvious? Why isn't this just working out? Like, I want to punch through with my head, right? But actually, the things are not working out until things are aligned is the most beautiful gift. It is the one compass and guiding mechanism built into this life, suffering. Aaron Epke once said that suffering is basically the degree of suffering is the same degree to which we don't accurately see reality as it is and align our lives with it. That's the last part I've added now. But that is the truth, and it is a very fortunate circumstance. So for every roadblock we hit, for every blockage we encounter, for every resistance we encounter in the world and with ourselves, let's bow down to it, because it's a lesson straight from the universe, helping us to awaken, liberate, and integrate more fully into the whole of existence.